Today, my podcast is about an interesting fellow by the name of Glendon Cameron. You see, there's this reality show going around now about the storage wars, and it's kind of dying out now, but Glendon was really the first guy to hit the scene on the internet that brought glamour to the storage wars. He was actually in talks to actually have a Storage Wars reality show, and someone beat him to the punch. Glendon has also had great businesses in the past with offline products as furniture, and he mastered the Craigslist. Now he's a guy who masters a space in book writing and creative products. This guy can actually knock out 5 books within a month. He has the power to hyper focus. And today we're going to tap into that focus. Glendon's in a different space. Some people may say, hey, the storage unit has died out. So they may have thought that Glendon would have died out. But as an entrepreneur, you have to be a creative thinker, and you have to always think one step ahead. And that is what Glendon is a master at. So without further ado, we will welcome Glendon Cameron to the podcast. Okay, guys, we have a great treat for you today. We have my man Glendon Cameron with me today. A great entrepreneur, a visionary, a guy that just creates. And I know he is in his passion. So we're going to go ahead and get right into it. Glendon, how's it going today?
It is awesome.
Cool. Now, Glendon, where are you at right? Are you in Georgia? Is that where you live right now?
I'm kind of between places. I'm between Georgia and Tennessee.
Tennessee, like Nashville, Memphis, Tennessee? What part?
Little country town, little country place.
Okay. Oh, you trying to do the David Chappelle thing. Just go off in
off the grid at times, right?
Which is funny because, we talked about that earlier today. And, we were talking about schedules and things like that. And you had said that, sometimes when you're trying to create, you have to go to that place, and every place is different. For me, Glendon, you would think the coffee shop would be so busy and loud, it would be bad for me. I'm productive there. I don't know why. But in my home, I'm productive, but not as productive as there. So maybe it's the extroverted personality. I mean, what do you think?
It's funny. I was in a coffee shop Sunday, and I had my laptop, and I sat down, and because I had an idea humming around, and I wrote 1,400 words, and that's the first time ever in my life that I've worked in a coffee shop.
Wow.
So I think it's really your mindset, because I think people have a invisible barrier, because if you are an internet dude and you work from home, there's no separation of work and home.
That's true.
And you find yourself, say you got a project in your home, and there's really no place where you can kind of run and hide, because your work is always there with you. Whereas if you go out somewhere, you reduce the stress. And at one point, I even thought about renting an office or, because I've been working from home since 2009.
Okay.
And today I got stuck in traffic, and I was sitting there, and this is going to sound really, really bad. I was like, people deal with this shit every day, because it is rare that I get stuck in traffic, or I had to go to the bank and do some business, and I did it on a Saturday, and I was like in line for 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. That has not happened to me in years. And when it happens, it gets my attention because it's so rare. And then sometimes I have to kind of calm down, like, people deal with this shit every day, dude. Mm-hmm. Every day. And I'm just like, woo. So.
And you can imagine their mental state.
Stress. Yep. A lot of stress. But what I'm learning is to take advantage of the location independent lifestyle I have. Going into a little country place in Tennessee, as long as there's Wi-Fi, I'm good.
Yeah.
I would recommend, because, people get into these debates about, I got a MacBook Pro, and people, if you are a internet person and you're doing podcasting or video, audio books, ebooks, it is so hard to beat a Mac. I mean, it is so hard because you know how people have all these fancy videos with green screen, and I could do a green screen with the Mac. I just haven't. All my videos are edited with iMovie. I make all of my intros, and you know, sometimes I'm going to start outsourcing some logo design in the future. But if I got a MacBook Pro, a camera, a microphone, and some lights, that's the business.
Really?
That's it. Yeah, that's it. And the space. That's it. I could literally pack up my studio in the trunk of my car and go anywhere and work.
See, I'm still stuck with the PC. I've used Mac when I was in school, but as far as the computer now, I go with the PC because I'm the cheap guy, but I've heard so much about this Mac. Maybe I need to get myself one.
Hey, go on Craigslist, get yourself a used one. If you find one that still has the warranty, as long as you buy the extended warranty before the year warranty expires, you can get like 2 additional years. Mm-hmm. And if something goes wrong with it, they'll fix it or they'll replace it. They're really good with that. Wow. But yeah, it's really hard to beat. And I'll tell you my story. I had a Toshiba. There's a video on YouTube about that Toshiba, because when I started really cranking out the videos, that Toshiba would just like, the fan would start spinning really high, and then it would just hear this loud snap, pop, and it would shut off. And until it cooled off, I couldn't do anything else with it.
Really?
Oh yeah, there's a video about that one, because I went through a bunch of forums, and this guy said he took a shock vac and he cleaned out the vent, and then it stopped doing that. And that happened to me. And many people were talking about, hey, that's bad, static electricity. I would do that to that Toshiba at least once a month to keep it from popping off, because, when you're in that creative mood, you got a lot of stuff that's going on, and then your thing will not work. It drives you crazy. And that pushed me, because, I was a PC guy, but that pushed me to Mac, because I kept hearing, I noticed all the YouTubers. Everyone had a Canon camera. Everyone had a Mac. And it's just, I saw it over and over. I said, okay, there's got to be something to this. Not this many people would just be jumping on the bandwagon, unless there's a reason. And I went on Craigslist, bought an iMac with an i3 chip, paid like $800 for it. They were going for 12, because it was 6 months old. Okay. They were going for like $1,200. And that was the day that I had produced like 5 videos in less than the time it used to take me to do 2. Now, I would say since then, this was 2010, PCs have come a long way in terms of power and crunching video, but I haven't left Mac since. I actually sold that one back on Craigslist a few months later for $750. Mm-hmm. Then went ahead and got the tricked out MacBook Pro, the i7 chip. I paid $3,000 for it. And literally there was a year that computer never went off. I mean, it was on for a year. Didn't turn it off. It was always plugged in, always doing stuff. It is, wow, it's going on 5 years old now.
And still running like a champ.
No, it slowed down a little bit. The fan pops on a lot, but I would have, and from my eBay days, I used to always trade my laptop out every year because it was so hard on it, taking it out to auctions, because I would buy stuff, take pictures, and find some place. I even had that remember those Verizon sticks that you stuck it to your laptop?
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I would go find some place, sometimes do it in the van, take pictures and upload that stuff to Craigslist or eBay before I got home. I was brutal. And typically 8 to 9 months, they would start slowing down. I would have to reformat the hard. And I was like, okay. So I just got to a point where I would switch them out. And this is probably, this is the first time that I have not switched out a computer. And I would say I am much harder on these Macs than I ever was on those PCs, because video is very, very intensive. When you make your videos, the fan comes on. Sometimes it slows down, or if you got enough power, you can process a video and still use your computer. But if your computer is just kind of like regular, with the Toshiba, when I was processing video, I could do nothing else. I just walk away and go do something else and come back when it was done.
It'll slow down everything else. Okay, I got you.
No. Nothing else would work on that Toshiba. Nothing. I could do, slow. Really? Yeah, that's how bad it was. Whereas when I got the MacBook Pro, and I was processing the video, answering email, and watching the video on YouTube. I was like, whoa, I'm never going back to PC.
And maybe you just probably made me a follower of Apple from now on.
Well, I mean, I've always told people if I didn't do video, I probably never would have bought one, but it was more so out of necessity because if you've got say you got the i7 chip and you got the 15-inch MacBook Pro, you got an office.
That's true.
You got an office. I mean, and once again, I don't use PC, and I do know that they've come a long way, but I can go out the country, take my MacBook Pro with me. I wouldn't take the lights because I'd probably get the lights and borrow the lights there. And you would not know that I left the country. Wow. And I know, there's some videos on YouTube. I'm not in the U.S. And I made them, but no one knows this.
Really?
Well, part of the thing is when you are online, you got to keep your personal life personal or, because I've been doxxed. I had people like, when I first came on YouTube, one of my friends from the Storage Auction Trail calls and said, hey, man, this guy I don't know, he came out to the auction and he was asking everybody, y'all know a Glendon Cameron? I'm not kidding, man.
So they tried to scope you out, huh?
Oh, they did. They did. And then when they got confirmed that I was legit, because there were people like, he's never been to a storage auction in his life. Never, ever, ever. I was laughing. Uh-huh. And, when you develop a YouTube channel and once you've been on for a few years, you kind of develop a little celebrity. I'm not going to say it's the same thing as, Tom Cruise, nothing like that, but you'll go out in public and people will stare at you and you're like, do I have a booger in my nose? And you kind of forget that maybe they saw you on YouTube because you're just like, why is this person staring at me like that? That's a little weird. That's a little strange. Then I've had people come up to me. Hey, I love your video. Oh, okay. Cause I thought you were a stalker.
Man, I've been in Mississippi. I used to do a state fair down there and, I was, born there or whatever, but I haven't been there for freaking years, 17. And, I bumped into this guy running to the bathroom. And I said, oh, man, sorry. He said, hey, you Abdul from YouTube. I'm like, what is this? So, yeah, that was, I know what you're talking about. So,
oh, yeah, it gets weird. So it gets weird.
Let's take it back to the beginning. Where were you born? I think you had some Alabama roots. Is that where you were born?
Oh, yeah. I was born in a little city outside of Birmingham, Alabama.
Birmingham, Alabama. What was that like, man? What do you remember about that place? The city you were in?
Country as hell. Country as hell. It was, let's put it this way.
Okay, keep going.
If a house caught on fire, everybody came out to look because that was an entertaining event because, nothing happened. In some aspects, it was pretty good. The things didn't change. As a kid, my biggest fear was the boogeyman. Okay. I knew everybody in the neighborhood. Not a lot happened. Things stayed the same. Really, really boring. It's good for stability because didn't move, was born in one house and I lived in that house until I joined the military. That's kind of rare for kids today, but, you're pretty country, pretty small town. Let's put it this way. September, everybody started getting excited because the country fair was coming to the fairgrounds. It was that kind of place.
Okay. Now, did you have any brothers and sisters when you grew up?
You can just say I'm an only child.
Okay. Now, you're quite a bright guy. You're into different stuff, and right now it seems like your life is kind of mirroring mine. I grew up in a small town and everyone knew everyone's business and things like that. But, were you, isolated? Were you a jock in high school? Were you the nerd guy? Who were you in high school?
I was 100% nerd. 100%. Let's put it this way.
I could have guessed that one.
We had a teacher, Mr. Phillips, and Mr. Phillips would grade on the curve. Okay. I was teased and bullied so much that I would just make 100 because if, there was no curve if someone made 100. Yeah. So I would intentionally do that shit just to fuck with them. That's how nerdish I was. I was the only guy in like 2 advanced classes. So that was interesting. But yeah, the only guy. What was real interesting, I did play football for a few years, and at that point, I became somewhat cool. It was just a really, really fascinating transformation because I was like, I'm the same guy, but since I hang out with these guys, more people accept me. It was really, really interesting.
Huh.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up in an area where they had the tables where the jocks, the white kids sat over here, the black kids sat over here, the nerds sat over here. So I'm over there with the nerds.
Okay. So you were there talking about, you're probably about my age, so you probably were there talking about He-Man, Transformers,
Dungeons and Dragons,
Yep, I was that guy.
That's what it was. And then it got a little weird because when I started playing football, then some of the football guys was like, why are you sitting over there? And it was just like, well, these guys had my back for years, so I don't know about you new guys.
Yeah, I ain't gonna turn my back on my friends.
No, I couldn't do that. Unfortunately, I'm glad I didn't because things got a little messier later on. But pretty normal, school life.
So good grades, all that. Now, I joined the military to escape my situation.
Bingo, I did the same thing.
Same thing. You probably were bored to death, I'm sure. With all the things that was going on through your mind probably that time, did you just think you wanted more? Is that what it was?
Well, I knew I wanted to get out of there because I grew up in the town. And if you don't know anything about Birmingham, there was two industries. A long time ago, there was a great deal of wealth in Birmingham because of the steel industry and the coal and the mining industry. There was a ton of iron ore and coal in a very small area. So it was perfect for the steel industry. I would see guys graduate school, go work in the mine, go work at the USS Steel, and within the 2 years have a house, be married, and have kids. It was and they made decent money.
Yep.
They were making $10, $15 an hour back then. Mm-hmm. So it was a path to having somewhat of a middle class lifestyle. But I just remember growing up and you would see it so often. News would flash on 13 miners caught in the cave in, 20 miners caught in the cave in. Nobody. I didn't want that.
Yeah.
I did not want that. So I got to the recruiter and I took the ASVAB and he just, after he gave me the results, he said, whatever MOS you want, you can have. You scored that high.
Yeah, so funny. I went to the ASVAB test with one of my best friends. We was going to skate together. And I passed the test and he didn't.
Ooh.
And he ended up staying back. He didn't do too well, but so okay. So what did you pick when he said pick whatever you want?
Well, see, this is one of the points where I wish I had a mentor because I could have had any MOS the Army had. And if I really was aware of stuff, I would have picked nuclear engineering. I would have went straight to nuke or maybe crypto.
Okay.
And then my thing was, well, the medical profession's good. And the guy pulls up all the medical professions. It's like, yeah, this is a nurse. Yeah, these people work in the lab. Oh, lab. Okay, cool. Then it's like, well, you can also pick where your duty station. And I was like, how? I could have went to anywhere, Germany. And then he said, yeah, if you want Hawaii, you can get Hawaii. Bam, Hawaii, Hawaii 5-0, right? So that's why, that's how I made my career decision. It's like, get the fuck out of Alabama and go to Hawaii. That was it. It was all about escape. There was no deep analysis. If I could do that back over again, I would have went into definitely crypto or Intel because I had friends who were getting out of the military because I got held back because I was in during Desert Storm. I didn't have to go over there. I was part of one of the processing teams at Fort McPherson that sent people over there. Mm-hmm. I had friends who were in crypto. They got out in like 91 making 50.
Really?
No college, working for a communication company straight up. I had one friend. He got out. His base pay was 55 and he worked crazy overtime. He made $130,000 in like 1 year in 1992 because he's like, yeah, I'm getting a house, right? And I go visit. I was like, how the hell? We're like 20 something, right? Uh-huh. And these dudes living in a 5-bedroom house. And all those crypto guys did very well, but many of them also experienced layoffs because they would do really well. And then the communication industry would change and they would get laid off. And I just saw a bunch of in and out. I mean, when they were working, they were making great money, but there was a lot of downtime.
But it's a good thing though, Glendon, because you wouldn't have found your passion, which is what we're going to talk about here in a minute here. But before you went to the military, did anyone in your family like travel or was in the military? You say, I want to be just like that person. Nothing?
Well, I had an uncle who retired from the Navy, but we never really talked about that stuff.
Okay. So nothing was glamorizing about his life. You like, oh, he gets to travel everywhere. I want that.
Nope. It was pure escape. It was either go work in the coal mine or the steel mill or get the hell out of Alabama.
Oh, that's an easy decision.
Yes, it was.
Okay. Now, I mentioned this word passion. Do you know what your passion is?
I got a weird relationship with the word passion.
Explain it to me.
Okay. Passion can be fun stuff. I think my thing was more determination than passion because, once again, going back to the nerd lifestyle, I was a voracious reader. I estimated I read 4,000 books between the first grade and high school. That's all I did. That was it.
Crap, that's unheard of.
Well, no. Let's full disclosure. Some of those books were like 30 pages. You go to the library, and I remember this one book that I read, it just had nothing but pictures of guns. It was like 200 pages, but there weren't a lot of words. Mm-hmm. So I would go to the library, and they knew me by name. It was just with my backpack, and I would have 6 to 10 books every time. And sometimes in the summer, I would go in the morning. The next day, I would take those books back, get another 10, mm-hmm. and that went on for decades.
Was anyone else in your family a great reader? Did they read a lot of books?
Yeah, my mother did. Yeah, we had 4 or 5 bookcases in the house.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, they lined the dining room. And they were all full of stuff. Mm.
What did your mom do for a living?
She passed on. She was a domestic.
What was she?
A domestic for most of her life.
Okay. Because I was saying, usually genius is kind of passed on. I was just trying to see who did that maybe come from, but it sounds like it was your mom.
That's a really good question because I'm very different from the rest of the family.
I probably can imagine that.
I got an uncle I was talking to recently, and he was real. I was telling him what I did, and he was just like, wow. He's 82 years old. And he was like, really? You're doing that? Wow, you are different from everybody else.
Look, so you go to you go back home for Thanksgiving, and somebody says, "Hey, Glendon, what do you do?" How do you explain that? Because you do so many things, which we'll talk about here in a little bit later.
I just went ahead and became Indian. You know how if you meet an Indian guy, his name is Alo Hasna, and he'll tell you, just call me Al.
Yeah.
Because he knows that it's a 5 to 10 minute conversation trying to teach you how to say his name.
Okay.
When I meet, I'm a writer. And I got a book on Amazon. That's it. Because there's this guy. His name is Nev Mahara. Uh-huh. And he's got this video, and I love it. It's like, what the fuck do you do to make money, right? Because he's a similar. He's a copywriter. He's got websites. And when you start talking to someone who is not privy to that type of lifestyle, after you say the third thing, they start thinking, this is some kind of scam artist, right? This is a suspect. He's over here. He's over here. And when you talk to someone who just has a regular job that they leave their house, get in their car, and go do X task for a day and then come home, you sound crazy.
Yeah.
You sound crazy. It's just, I've just learned over the years, it's just not even. My girlfriend just found out what really the whole extent of everything I did. She just found out. And it was like, whoa. And the only reason she could take it is she saw it happening. Mm-hmm. Whereas if I had met her and said, well, this is what, she'd been like, what?
You know what? I think I saw you make a video about that a long time ago. You've had, I don't know if it's multiple women, but women that kind of like, you've had a problem with explaining what you do. And I think you said... You're
talking about the one about the attorney, the one that asked me 5
times. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That was a special case right there. Because the thing is, all right, when you talk to conservative people, and there are people who are conservative and don't understand that they're conservative, mm-hmm. when you say, I sit at a computer and I talk on YouTube and I put books on Amazon. I have my own website. I have my own video website. I do consult. They're just like, huh? It's just too much.
Yeah.
It's like you got that 1,000 horsepower engine and the transmission can only handle 120. The minute you rev up, it pops.
Yep.
So I don't even have those conversations. It's just, I can have a conversation with another internet person. They get it like instant. And you go out and you talk to SEO guys, or you talk to folks who are doing internet marketing or Twitter people. Yeah, they get it because they know people like that. But when everyone in the family has regular, normal occupations, you kind of look like, what's the term? Failure to lunch. It's like, bless his heart. Bless his little heart. He doesn't know what he wants to do. Oh, who's got that X5 outside? It was like, that happened.
Yeah, and then it'll be like, you didn't get that from some shady stuff, do you? Because I still don't know what you do. You know, just people that...
Oh, no, let me tell you. I was at a holiday event. It was some family folks. And, the kids like, who is driving that nice car and everything? And I went on and say, oh, that's mine. And it's like, but you don't have no job. Well, that's what my mama said.
How you get that car? Is that a rental? Yeah.
Oh, man. And part of it is I keep a pretty low profile.
Yeah.
That's another part of it. Because one of the things I learned while I was in the storage auction business is, people will be more real with you when they have no idea what you really are capable of. Now, remember,
there's truth to that.
I bought this unit that had these really nice Indian rugs. And I knew that trying to sell them on eBay was going to be real tricky. So I found a guy locally, took the rugs to him. He looked at them. He had his dad come out, and they were like, "Whoa, these are nice. Where'd you get them from?" And
I like that accent, by the way.
It was just like, I didn't tell them exactly where I got it from because I know how they can be. And I just said, I used to tell all kind of lies when I was in the storage auction business because it wasn't like the YouTube, Storage Wars, where it's like, people would look at you like you were crazy. So I was like, well, I cleaned out foreclosures and these were left in the house. Oh, okay. We need to see your driver's license. And, they had me sign all kind of papers and everything. So I took them 20 rugs and they gave me 18 grand. So I'm like moving these rugs from the van to the place, and there's these really nice ladies out there, and one of them caught my eye, and I tried to talk to her. Now, understand, I got this van.
Okay.
Van doesn't have any air, so I'm sweating. I'm hauling these rugs in. The Indian guy's coming in. Oh, yeah, just put this one there. Yeah, Cameron. Yeah. So, essentially, I look like a laborer. That's the presentation, right? Yeah, I got a check for 18 grand in my pocket. And she just like, well, she's like, you have a nice day, and just walked off, right?
Oh, she judged you, huh?
I got used to it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, one time I was dating this doctor, right? And I took her out in the NPR van. I don't know if you saw that movie, Deliver Us from Eva, when LL Cool J was taking her out.
I know about the NPR. Yeah, that was a popular van back in the days.
Yeah, because they were good on gas, easy. And I was leaving an auction. I had enough. I stopped by the warehouse and took a shower, but for me to go home and get my car, it would have made me way, way late. So I just say, hey, I'm coming to get you in the big truck. And she said, oh, you got a pickup truck? No. It's a real big truck. So I pull up in the subdivision and I pull in the driveway, and she comes out and she said, oh my God, that is a big truck. And she got in. Had a good time. And then she ended up getting, because she kept, it was funny about her. She was short, maybe like 5'2". And she kept saying, I like riding this high. This is kind of cool, right? And this is a doctor, right? And this is what's funny about some chicks. You can meet somebody who is like a cashier in Macy's and come out in public and is all snooty as hell. And here's this woman who was like saving lives every day, who is just cool to be in the truck. It's just real funny how some people respond to situations.
And it's probably the real them, they're putting on.
Yeah. I still know her. She's funny. She is real funny.
Now let's talk about it. You were kind of known at the beginning as the storage guy before even Storage Wars and all those things came out.
Beat them by 14 months.
Yeah, exactly. You should have actually been on the show. I'm surprised they didn't contact you.
Well, there was the Discovery Channel. Okay. I was in talks to do a show. And we were trying to beat them because Storage Wars and Auction Hunters were already approved in the pipeline. So we came down. We even shot a pilot
Yep.
And it was a go. But the guy who approved the show found another job. Then the new guy came in and he didn't like the concept. So it didn't go anywhere. Wow. It's just like, and he's just like, well, I don't know if people appreciate it. It just seems so mean that you just take people's stuff. Well, no, you don't really take it. They lose it.
Yeah, they didn't pay for it.
Yeah. He didn't like it. He was just like, and then he had the guy rewrite it. And it's just like, seriously, it was just like, well, the voiceover was like, well, Glendon Garrett has been buying these storage units and he just felt so bad that he just started buying them and giving them back to the people. And I was just like, this shit's not going to go anywhere.
No, that's not.
He got fired when Storage Wars took off, and they did it kind of like, cause mine would have been like even more real than that. But yeah, I did get to do 2 consulting gigs for 2 other shows, and I found people for them. So it was really, really interesting to see what they do. I will say when I shot the pilot, it helped me with my videos because you got this guy there. He's saying you're swallowing your words. Well, you need to say this. And when you say something, don't say I bought a lot of units. Say I bought 30,000 units. You know, people want to see a number. He was just putting this stuff out. It was like really, really good information.
Okay. So Glendon, let me ask you a question, man. You know by now that you are different. I know that I've came into my life now. I accept that. I accept I'm different. And there's only a few that I can find that are pretty much like me. Now, you're not married right now. I heard you mention the word girlfriend.
No, but I am in a relationship.
Okay. But do you find that, being that maybe you might not disclose who you really are and you probably work by yourself and things like this, that it's hard to find a mate? Or what is your thoughts?
No, because see, this is real interesting. When I left the boarding house thing, you know, my first name is Patrick. Glendon is actually my middle name. It's actually my father's name.
Okay.
And I just kind of just went with Glendon Cameron because that's when I still had a job mentality. And I thought that name would look just so much better on the resume. And just to be honest, they didn't know I was black. It was like Glendon Cameron. Yeah. And I walked in and they were like, damn, you're tall. So that was the reason. And I made this change before the internet became what it is today. So when you like Google me, you're going to just find Glendon Cameron. You're not going to find Patrick. So when I would meet people, I would tell them we're Patrick. And one chick, oh my God, that's funny. We were at the restaurant. She's like, I just can't find nothing on Google about you. I was like, you really said that to me out loud, huh? So
research, huh?
Yeah. Oh, I think everyone Googles everyone. But essentially, I just presented myself. I mean, first of all, you got to look at the lifestyle. I had an old BMW. I didn't spend a lot of money. I didn't really come out stunning or flexing. So it really wasn't a problem. The problems happened when things got serious. And then that's when, what do? How much money you make? What's your credit score? Which are really valid concerns if you're talking about taking it to the next level with somebody.
Yeah.
But that's when it's just like, that's a job? For real? Yeah. So finding them was not the problem. It's just when they got to a certain level, that's when things kind of went a little spooky.
Okay.
It went a little spooky. So I learned part of it is just tell people you're a writer. Oh, yeah, here's a link. There's books on Amazon. Oh, you got great reviews. And that just solved a lot of questions. Yeah. But as things got deeper and there was just like, there's more to this. So, but that's what I learned in the storage auction business, because when you come out, you know, if you're a guy and you come at women with money, then when they like you for the money, you have no one to blame but yourself.
That's true.
You know, I always hear this thing about, oh, you know, women are gold diggers. Let's just be real. 98% of the population doesn't have any damn gold. There's no gold to be dug. Most people are poor, even if they're making six figures.
So true.
If they lose that job, their life will radically change. That means you are poor. So there is no gold. And that's what you led with. So if you come out like, yeah, you know, I'm going to pay your rent. I'm going to buy you these shoes. I'm going to take you on these vacations. And then they get to know you and like you for that. That's your fault. I never did that stuff. I mean, I never did that stuff. I mean, okay, I'm the dude. I don't buy a drink. I've never bought a woman a drink at the bar to talk to her. Never in my life. Nope. Just start talking and they like the conversation. Now, why should I have to spend money to talk to you? That makes no sense to me.
That's true. That's true.
I mean, and part of my whole relationship thing is I treat the women I'm dating like friends, because if you can't have that cozy, I mean, you're married, so you know this. Mm-hmm. Sex is important, but what are you going to do the other 95% of the time? So you need to be with someone you like. You need to be with someone you relate well to, and you have a lot of common interest. And that's how I started. It just changed my whole dating paradigm, because that whole, I call it dry dig Danny syndrome. You're spending all this money. Mm-hmm. I got this saying: the more money you have to spend on her, the more disinterested that she is in you. Ah. Because my best girlfriends, I have not. It wasn't even money. I knew one girl. One now. I knew her for, 6 months.
Uh-huh.
We didn't spend a lot of money. Hardly any. We just had a good time.
Good time. Yeah. Yeah. Do you ever think you get married one day?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
Excuse me. So we were talking earlier before we actually got on. You like to write. When you write, what kind of feeling do you get? Is it just like is it magical for you when you're writing? I mean, what is it, free flowing? What's the deal with that?
Well, it really depends on what I'm writing about. There's 3 stages. There's the walking through mud. When I'm writing some that I have to write, but I don't like writing it, I can get it done, but it doesn't flow. Mm-hmm. Then there is when I'm in the zone and I'm writing something I'm really interested in. I wrote one chapter of a book in an hour, and it came out at 3,600 words in an hour. Wow. But see, I had thought about it. I knew about what I was going to, it was just like a download. It wasn't even like just conscious thought. It was just downloading. And then there is what I call assembly. I'll write a bunch of stuff and then I'll look at it, and then it's like arranging blocks of text, because it's like, okay, the way that it came out, it was like, just take a hamper. Like you take a hamper and you just dump it on the floor, right? Yeah. The whites aren't together, the blue, and the color. So you have to separate them before you wash your clothes. I have pieces that I have to do that, because it's like it all just comes out, but it's not arranged. But it's fun. And if I don't write or create, it kind of starts to get bottled up. I don't know if you know. It's weird. It's like if I don't do it, I feel bad. That's the reason there's so many videos. That's the reason I can pump out so much content. There's a lot of stuff going on. One of my friends, because I actually have several books of poetry. I put one on Amazon. Okay. She was helping me edit some stuff years ago, and we were talking about writing, and I told her about how many books I read. She said, "Oh, you had no choice but to be a writer." I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "All that stuff you read, it's just coming back out." And I said, "Okay." I just thought that I like, writing. I didn't know it was that, but that's what she said. She said, you just consume so much information that it's got to come out.
It has to.
So that's.
It's funny. I was talking about, and I was telling you about Beethoven and Maya Angelou. Like they take time out of their day during a certain amount of time to just release all that info. And that's why if I had to guess, and I kind of differ with you on the meaning of passion, I would say maybe your writing is your passion, because that's something that just flows through you, that energy. Because I'm not more of a writer, I'm more of a talker. I like videos. Like I have over 1,000 videos on YouTube, and I know you probably have about the same or more. Like how many videos do you have on YouTube?
1,280 on one channel, 300 on another, about 2,000 videos across and everything.
Crap. So you definitely got a lot of information to let out.
Well, at one point I was doing 5 videos a day. That's a reason for that, because I was doing so much in the beginning, like 2009, 2010, because the reason the videos were happening is every time I put out a video, I got sales. And it was just like, hey, you ring that bell, I'm going to keep putting out this content. Mm-hmm. So that was part of it. In the storage auction business, as I can remember, I bought 1,500 units over a period of 10 years.
Yeah.
There was so many stories with that. I mean, there was stories with the stuff in the unit. There was stories that happened on the auction trail. There were stories that happened with me and my partner. There were stories that happened for putting the stuff on eBay and Amazon. So there was so many things going on that, I mean, I could probably do another 300 to 400 storage auction videos, but I had to make a choice because I knew the storage auction thing was not going to last forever.
Yeah.
And I was branded as a storage auction dude, but it wasn't like for years and years and years. So I knew that I could emerge out of that if I wanted to. So I had to make the pivot while things were still good, which was really crazy, but I'm glad I did it.
But can't you just create a product and just kind of leave it there and just keep selling? Because people may get interested in this by watching these, reality shows on storage units.
I'll give you a differential. I used to sell more storage auction books between the hours of 8 in the morning and 1 p.m. every day than I sell in a month now. Okay. People come to the channel, they see the stuff, and they'll go to Amazon and buy the books. But it lasted longer than I thought it would. So that's still in place that people can watch the videos and they can go to the book from Amazon. But I was making a living from that. I know what retirement feels like. You wake up every morning, there's money there. It's like the money fairy showed up. Never in my life had I had such an experience.
Yeah.
When my partner was sick, I was able to take her to her doctor's appointments. When I took her to the emergency room, that's when she got diagnosed. I was able to be there and do all those things because I had a source of income that came in whether I worked or not. And for some people, it was real hard for them to understand. You're making all that money in the storage auction business. There ain't no way in hell I would leave that kind of money. It's just, you're bullshitting. You're fucking lying. There's nobody's going to walk away from that. And then, you get this too. I have videos where I talk about why I left the business and they don't know what the search button is. I got sick, chronic fatigue syndrome. And then my partner was diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah.
Really couldn't go forward. And we didn't build a business to be automated. We were just doing it. So when we went out, the business died. But when you talk to someone who's never had any money, has never created anything, it's just, oh, hell no, there ain't no way. He must be a fake. There's no way you can leave that. No. And it's just, and also watching my partner die. I mean, that she was in the hospital for 2 weeks. Wow. And then going through my own mortality. Cause like in 2010, I almost died again. I was in the hospital, passed out in the bathroom. So I've had these two brushes with my own mortality, watching a very dear friend die. So I'm not the same guy as I was in the storage auction business. Money is just a tool for me to be free. That's it. It's just a tool to be free. So part of the way I live my life, I don't have a lot of bills. I don't have a car payment. I just don't have a lot of monthly outgo. I mean, I can live on a little money and I keep it that way because you never know what the marketplaces are going to do. I mean, at one point it was rolling with the storage auction book and I knew it was going to die down. And when it died down, I didn't have a bunch of stuff that I was going to lose because I was leveraged to the hilt. I never allowed that stuff to happen. So that's why I had the freedom that when things were good to do a pivot and start working on some other stuff. Because one of the reasons that so many people can't start a business is their burn rate is so high. You got a wife, you got 2.5 kids, a poodle, you make $3,000 a month, your wife makes $3,000. So, after taxes, y'all bringing in like 3,800, maybe $4,000, and you want to quit your job and like, in 90 days, I need to be at 6,000.
Oh God.
It's not happening. It's not happening. No. 2 reasons. 1, you're already mentally exhausted from the life you have. Yep. 2, you don't know how to manage money, because if you knew how to manage money, you wouldn't be in that situation right now. Mm-hmm. So, and this is the thing that cracks up. People say, well, if I just get a business, then, I'll start making more money, everything will be okay. No, you're going to make more mistakes because you got more money to make more mistakes with.
That's true. That's true.
So, And that's been the biggest thing for me, because another reason I left the storage auction business and reselling is people find those videos when they are in dire need. Yep. It's like, yo, the light's about to be cut off, but hey, I know you can come up quick, make $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 with storage auction, right? Spend $10. Yeah.
Do it after expiration.
And that is not, I feel for people in that situation.
Yep.
I've been there. I know exactly what it feels like. But I'm not a magician and I don't have any magic jelly beans. So when I say, you get in the business, you're looking at 6 months, maybe 2 years before you really start making any money. They're like, oh, man, you full of shit. I don't want to hear that. I want the 30-day plan. I want the 60-day plan. I want the 90-day plan, because Baby G got to get his money, right? So that's another reason that I've changed the direction of the channel, because my best customers in the consulting tip have been people who are already in business.
Yep.
I mean, I get people who are trying to start a business, and it kind of goes okay, but the ones who really like me, the ones who see great results, like my favorite client, he was doing 30,000 when he found me. Mm-hmm. I got him up to 100,000, and it was just like, it was so nice. It was so nice just to be able to go in and see that kind of change. And really, it wasn't, I didn't do a lot. I'm not even going to sit there and go like, I clapped my hands in the Red Sea. No, I went in and did 6 things in his business, and that made the difference. 6.
Yeah.
Because he did all the hard work. He built the business. He had the products. He had the customer base. It's just, he was so in his business, he could not look at it objectively. So I came out and like, yeah, you do this, you do this, you do this, you do this. And I mean, one recommendation, he saw a $15,000 a week. And he was like, whoa.
But then it took you a while to be able to do those 6 things and look at it and say, 6 things that you need to do, boom, boom, boom. And you didn't just come up with those things overnight. You went through a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to get to that level.
Oh, I learned a lot of that in the storage auction business, because every month there was something.
Yeah.
Take eBay. You get a lot of people that they never had a problem with eBay or PayPal. And then I'll say something and they take it as me being very condescending. I say, oh, your business isn't that big. Because when every stage of our eBay business, we had a problem. I remember the first night we sold 100 products, because back then Sunday around 6 p.m. was the magic hour. It's just like, it was sitting there like, just, you get excited because, it's like, hey, everything is like, $2,000. Then around 6 p.m. your volume jumps up to 6, 7, 8, 10. Mm-hmm. I remember that first Sunday we had 100 items sell. We had to package all that stuff. I mean, it was physical.
Yeah.
I mean, we were wiped out. And that's like, okay, how do we handle this? Because if we want to grow and sell more, we got to put in a process. So then we started pre-packaging stuff. And I mean, every stage of growth led to a new problem. And then when we hit the certain volume, like I bought this unit that was full of these antique dolls. And, we were doing like 3,000 to 4,000 a week, pretty regularly. Sometimes it would spike up. Then I had a week we hit $20,000. And a lady up from eBay, because I woke up and they got that fucked up message. Mm-hmm. You need to call us. It's like, why do I need to call you? What's wrong? We didn't do anything wrong. Then you go back 30 minutes later, all your listings are taken down. You're like, what the hell? Then your PayPal account's locked up with 32 grand in it. And you're like, what just happened? And then I called up the lady and she said, yeah, you normally sell 3,000 to 4,000, but this week you did 20. I was like, isn't that the point? Isn't that the point? And
oh man,
I learned that, they weren't ready for that. They were not ready for, if you were Apple and you had an eBay account, yeah, if you did that, they wouldn't care. But, it was, the upscale garage sale. And they were just like, what the hell? And I mean, it took a while to get that stuff. It took a while to get the money back. And then after that scarring period, they did it again, like 18 months later. They did it again.
Now, Glenn, let me ask you a question. You and I are kind of in the same boat where it's you don't have like a job title. You just kind of do a number of things. Have you ever had any problems at the bank? I always get the bank tellers that ask these, they check the account and they ask these strange questions. And they're not asking for the bank. They're just asking for personal. What is it you do? What is this? What is this? And they're only judging you on your account. Do you get that from bank tellers or people like that when you deal with money? Because it seems like eBay.
I'm gonna say something. This is real strange. This is strange. I used to get that because I remember one time, and we had corporate accounts. We didn't do any of this stuff like as a sole proprietor. We had corporate accounts. And I remember I spent all my money in an auction, and I had to go to Bank of America and get some more money because I was out and I had word there was going to be some good stuff. So I go in there and I'm like, I need 10 grand, right? And the lady's like, okay. And I fill out the stuff and she's looking at me. I mean, it is clear I am an insect under a microscope because she's like, how did this ragamuffin be talking about? And she looks at the account. And I mean, it was like toward the end of the month before we start paying bills, rent and all this other stuff. So that was probably like $180,000 in the account. And she's like looking at me. But this is something else. Once they do that, and next time you come in that bank, I don't care if it's like 6 months later, they know exactly who you are. Hey, Mr. Cameron, how you doing? I mean,
you're a celebrity at this point.
They know who you are. Now it's funny. I don't have nowhere near that kind of money going in my accounts. But they know me because I have different conversations. And, I just do certain things because I got like a few guns that are really nice and I don't keep them where I live. I keep them in a safe deposit box. Yeah. So I got a corporate account. I got a personal account. I got a safe deposit box. And it's part of it's the neighborhood.
Okay.
Because I'll tell you something that's really, really crazy. And the neighborhood had a lot to do with it. Because if I was in another part of town, things may have went real different. I got a car and I was riding around with no tags, but I knew the law. You have 30 days to get a tag. Yep. So I get pulled over, come to find out my license is suspended over some bullshit. Oh. And something that happened in 1998. And I was like, what the heck? And I talked to the police officer. We were just like, okay, well, it's like, no, handled that years ago. It was adjudicated, blah, blah, blah. Now, understand, no tag. Yeah. Suspended license. And I drove off.
Yeah, I agree. I got you.
I drove off. She did not arrest me, had a civil conversation, no issues, no problems. And because of where I was and the way I presented myself, she assumed I was somebody.
Yep.
So I get a different level of treatment because I don't know, maybe you feel this way. When you truly are in control of your own destiny, your attitude about everything changes.
Totally.
I know right now that there are many black, white, and women who are being shot by cops right now. Mm-hmm. And, since I happen to be black, everyone feels I should have the same mindset. When you go ahead and look at the full case, not just the 5-minute video that's been truncated, when you look at the whole case, you come up with some different outcomes. Totally. And I've never been abused by a cop. Never had a bad, this is when I was a speeder, dude. I remember leaving Atlanta, going to DC, doing 110 the whole way. I used to be that dude. And even in those situations, I never had problems, but it's how you present yourself. And then when they go look at my record and stuff, I don't have any warrants. I've not been arrested. Nobody's looking for me. Yep. So by having that mindset, I can walk into the bank now in some sweatpants, not shave, and I still get the same respect if I have walked in there in a suit. And it's real strange. And I realize a lot of it has to do how I think, because I truly don't care what a lot of people think of me anymore. I used to care greatly, but now you can't make everyone happy. There's a few people that I value their opinion, and they've been vested and tested. And typically, if they say, you're fucking up, I'm like, okay, I'm fucking up, because I know that's just not some hate stuff. Yeah. And another thing, when you carry yourself a certain way, people tell you stuff, because I'm in a neighborhood with a bunch of wealthy people. Mm-hmm. And the conversation at the car wash is totally different than the car wash, say, somewhere else. Yep. You got people. I was in there having my car washed, and I was talking to this guy, and he was talking about, he was getting a divorce and everything. And I said, well, maybe you need a New Mexico LLC. And he's like, what's that? And he's like, well, in New Mexico, the only thing they ask for is the name of the company, a registered agent, and articles of incorporation. So nobody knows who owns that LLC. And Wyoming has some similar law. And then another guy's like, yeah, my uncle, he has one of those accounts. Then another guy chops in. Well, another thing you could do is create a trust and and all of a sudden there's this conversation and there's some women in the waiting room and they're just like, what the hell just happened?
Like, what are they talking about?
Yeah. Because, it wasn't about sports and it was just a different conversation. And, another guy was like, oh, okay. And then he started feeling better because this country is predicated on the rule of law. Yeah. And every law just about has a loophole if you know where to look. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you get those kind of conversations. I had a guy met in the Waffle House. I talked to him, ended up getting a consultant client through someone he knew just based on just saying, well, you can tell people who are successful what you do, and they don't look at you crazy because every successful person that I know has gone through a lot of shit.
Oh, stop. Oh, please stay there. You just said the key word. Successful people don't judge because they know you got to go through the mud to get there.
Yeah, I don't get that. I don't get those conversations. I get like, wow, you're doing that and you're doing that. That's crazy. Cause we talk about, and it's just a different conversation, but
totally.
You can't, when you have a W-2 mentality, it is so hard to understand these concepts because your life is predicated on lack, lack of time, lack of money. Mm-hmm. So to be respectful of my audience, cause I've kind of changed it up a little bit. It's like yelling at a baby for not knowing how to write their name, and I'm not trying to be condescending, but that's kind of what it is.
I know what you're saying.
That's what it is. So I can't expect certain people to understand certain things when they've never been in that situation. Mm-hmm. I mean, I remember having to make payroll. We didn't have the money. And then I'm sitting there like, okay, if I don't pay these people tomorrow, there's going to be a revolt. Someone may shoot me. So I'm sitting there. Then I get one of these things from the bank. Hey, get a line of credit, pre-approved $25,000. So I was like, So, I needed money, right? So I go to the bank and it's like, it was for real. It's like, oh yeah, you're already approved. And bam, that money was in the account. And I was like, let me see, can I go? And I went to 5 banks that day and did the same thing. Got 5 lines of credit for $20,000 to $25,000.
And you were able to
now, if my back wasn't against the wall, I never would have did that. It never really even came to me. It was just like, I got to pay these fools. I mean, because there's nothing worse than going to your job, expecting to be paid, and there is no conversation. It's like, hey, we don't have, no. I got to pay my child support. Hey, my wife will kill. No. You cannot do that to people. You could get shot.
And you know what's so funny, man? Like, everybody's screaming for, these minimum, higher minimum wage, which I think is crazy because all you're doing is paralyzing people because you give normal people bigger money, they're never going to leave. So a job they were only supposed to be at for maybe a year, they're going to end up staying 20 years from now. But what I'm saying is they don't understand the life of the entrepreneur, the sacrifices and things that they have to go through in order to make payroll. And sometimes they have to do it out for a lot. Just to get these money.
I had another website go on, the furniture website that damn near bankrupted us. And there was a few months there where our employees were making more money than my partner and myself.
Oh, I believe it.
We were making, my contract office furniture business did 1.2 million in gross sales, made a whole bunch of mistakes, had one massive screw up that cost $250,000. At the end of the year, after 1.2 million going through the corporate accounts, the profit was like 20 grand.
Yep.
That was like, and the next year I was in the storage auction business. I couldn't have another year like that. I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I mean, these were 80-hour weeks. Talking to people, driving all over the place, doing the dog and pony show. And then the first year, the storage auction business was like 92,000, but the profit was like 80. So I made 1/10, less than 1/10 what I made, but had way more money. And I was splitting with a partner and still had way more money.
Now, let me ask you a question. You say you ended up in the hospital, you had the chronic stress and that situation. Now you're in the internet space and you're making money through this way, not necessarily physical business. And then, you told me that maybe you're interested in traveling here pretty soon. Do you like the internet lifestyle? Is that a stress-free business for you? Do you feel more like you can breathe now? with this type of business?
I don't really get stressed out because I want you to think about this. Most of the stressors of average people are removed from my life. I don't deal with traffic. I don't deal with crazy coworkers. Yep. The internet can be stressful, but unless, today we had this interview and I had to meet you. Unless I got something where I have to meet somebody, I could just say, you know what? I'm not working the rest of the day and go to the park.
That's true.
So it can be stressful, but there are way more release valves. If you're at your job and you got to work on the project and you're like, hey, Bob, I'm really stressed out. I need to go take a nap. Bob's like, get your ass back to work. You can't do that. I had a day where I woke up like 3 o'clock in the morning and didn't go back to bed and worked really hard. And then I was like, I'll just take a nap. So there is stress, but there are more ways to relieve the stress. So
I got you.
And the freedom, because one of the reasons, you alluded to this, sometimes I disappear. I will tell you, after my partner died, I didn't really do shit for 6 months. I mean, it was a struggle to make one video a week.
Yeah.
I did absolutely nothing for 6 months. Nothing. We'll go for a walk every day. That was it.
Actually, they recommend that. If someone close to you died, to take a 6-month vacation. They recommend that. But yeah, I got you. Keep going.
Yeah. And the thing is, the reality is, if you got a regular job and you have all of these bills, and you can't do that. You just can't say, you know what? I'm going to check out for 6 months. You can't do that. No, so yeah. So my stress level doesn't really get, I have a stressful day here or there, but overall, no, it's pretty manageable. I'm not going to say it's stress free. I know when people were doxing me and doing all kinds of crazy stuff, that was like insane.
Yeah.
And I was dating this chick who did not I came to find out she didn't think I had a job. Now check this out. I had a nicer place than she did. Car, all kinds of stuff. And I never ever complained about money. Never ever like, oh, I got paid. Never had those conversations. But because I didn't work a traditional job, I didn't have a job. That kind of was stressful. And now that's one of the reasons as you get on this path, you kind of learn how to deal with stuff because, I'm about to be, talk about the race thing, for the conversation. I don't believe in the precepts of race, but you have to use it. Otherwise people know what you're talking about. But when you talk to folks who like Indians, Asians, white women, it's not a hard sell. It's like, hey, I wrote a book. Really? Wow. Okay.
I already know where you're going with this one.
And then, you talk to someone else and it's like, are you a bestseller? You make New York's best time seller? You're just like, wait a minute. What the? Okay. I don't understand. And, and one of the things about my channel is I'll be authentic and I say stuff that gets me in trouble, but I'll even say something else. And if you look at all the guys, like, I don't know if you know who Jerry Levine is, the Jerry Levine life. He used to do all his comedy sketches with Hot Damn I Rock.
I don't know what that is.
If you look at all the guys who are making money from YouTube who happen to have relationships, 7 times out of 10, they are not with, like Jerry, his wife is Asian. You got another guy. It's just, when you start talking about doing some stuff that's just not normal, it's hard for people to accept because it took me a long time to figure out what the real problem was. Like, you meet this girl, and you with her, and y'all together, it's cool. And yeah, you do that and that thing, that's cool. But when she has to explain to her people and her friends what you do, then it's like, okay, well, he does a book, and he got a YouTube channel, and he does this thing with a blog. And girl, does he have a job? I don't know. You got that stuff. So
yeah, I know what you're saying. Doesn't it get frustrating though? That you have to, it has to make you just a tad bit, because it happens everywhere you go. If you don't fit in the same box as someone else, they think they can't see it as being legit. And I'm not saying that you, and I had a guest on here and he summed it up real nice. You shouldn't try to sell yourself. I'm not saying that, but does it ever get you frustrated that people don't understand what you do?
It used to, but then I had to go to a higher level of understanding. Okay. People can only understand to their level of understanding. All right. I'm talking about let's just say you talk. Well, actually, I got my Aunt Bunny. She's 92, and I told her, and she got it. Baby, I'm so proud of you. She was a teacher, but she had 92 years on this earth, so her perspective is so much bigger than someone who has maybe 30 years on this earth.
Got it.
It's kind of like if you go into a fight and you know you can kick this guy's ass, that you just kind of like get him off of you and just go on your way because you know that this person doesn't really understand what they got themselves into. So when I meet these people, I don't really get frustrated and I don't even try to explain it to them anymore. I just be me and just do what I do, because when I got real comfortable with it, I started meeting a different group of people.
There you go.
A totally different group of people. You know, I got friends now that have amazing lives. And when we have conversations, it's not, you can't have a conversation about going to China and starting the business when you work a regular job. That seems like a fantasy. That seems like a fantasy. It's fantastical. It's like, whoa. Who does that? People do it.
Yeah.
So frustrating. I find it it's a great source of comedy now. I mean, it used to drive me crazy, but now it's just how it is what it is. I mean, what's funny is many of the people who are looking at me side eyes now, 5 to 10 years, they're going to be trying to do the same thing that I'm doing now. That's going to be, that's the funny thing, because I was having this conversation with someone, because I've been a member of this writing group for 5 years, and I went in there with some of my newfangled ideas. Whoo, Lord. Let's just say it was like I walked in and slapped a baby and everybody pulled out their machine guns. I got flamed up because I said this, and I'll never forget it. If it takes you 10 years to write a book, you don't know what the fuck you're doing, right? Oh, how dare you say that? Oh my God, that's horrible. You know, these people are working on their masterpiece. Who are you to judge? Okay. Well, that guy who came at me 2.5 years in, he started doing the things I had recommended and started posting in the group. And 2 people was like, hey, didn't Glendon say something like that? Oh. And no, nobody touched it. See, this is the thing. Nobody touched it because it's real tough. It was just like, yeah, you were right. But we're not going to tell you that. We're going to act like this is our idea, because I talked about, and this is the rage with the Kindle thing. And this is something I learned from writing the book, because I had a guy, and this is how pimping Craigslist came to be. I wrote the storage auction book. I was making money. I was happy. This guy was like, hey, what's next? You know, you kind of talk about Craigslist in the book. You got a book about Craigslist? And I wrote him back. I will by the end of the month, right? And I started working on it. And that's how that happened. So I knew that if you have one book that does well, you got to have another one behind it, and then another one behind that one, and another one behind that one. And I talked about that, and they were just like, that's too fast. You write that fast. You're just putting out crap. It's just not going to be good. It's just no. And all of a sudden, these people who were saying this they're doing it.
See,
and there's this guy, and look him up, and you've probably read one of his books because he writes under so many pen names, Dean Wesley Smith. And what I love about the internet is it allows you to reach out to people you just normally couldn't contact.
Yep.
Dean wrote, he wrote a lot of those Star Trek books.
Okay.
He did a lot of them. I mean, he's written like maybe 200 books in his life. Mm-hmm. And he had a blog, and he was talking about killing the sacred cows of publishing. And they're talking about, and it broke it down. It's like, if you write 250 words per day, every day, that's 92,000 words in the year. It does, and I just starts thinking about that. And, and I reached out to him and I said, dude, you just don't know what happened to me. I said something and I just outlined screenshots, everything. And we kind of chuckled, and he helped me out. And he's just like, you got to understand that you're messing with people's fantasies of writing. Mm-hmm. You're messing with the romance of you're messing with some mindsets. They're going to attack you because they don't want to re-examine what they are doing. And they don't want to. So he really was a mentor to me in that, because I was just like, it's like, how come I'm the only one that think like this? And then now that I'm going back to Kindle, and I reached out to some people, so many of the things that I thought were happening, because I said it, that all third party, I even in the book I wrote, I call it Cameron's Law. All 30-party platforms behave the same at some point because they have to. And it's in their own best interest. And Amazon's doing it. I love Amazon. I ordered some stuff from there today. And it happened. And I was just like, I am so glad I spent the last 2.5 years working on learning how to sell to strangers because, on my Facebook page, I rarely post on my personal Facebook page anymore. That was just such a huge waste of time. I have people like, you okay? You don't post anymore. It's like, no, that's not making me any money. Posting on Facebook is not making me any money.
Yeah.
Then it gave me confidence in, as you called me a visionary, it gave me more confidence in my vision because, when I talk to people about, what's coming, you're going to have your ebook, you're going to have a print book, you're going to have your audio book. And then there's going to be this person's going to buy one and they're like reading the book on their phone. Then they get in their car and then the phone starts reading the book to them in their headphone where they left off. That's just going to be the norm. And what I am waiting on, and it's going to happen, some whiz kid is going to create this app that translates anything perfectly. So once that happens, doesn't matter if your book's in English. You don't have to get it translated. They can go to Amazon or your site, buy it, run it through that app, and it's going to translate it. So anyone that's writing, your customer base goes from, which is currently, 2 billion people speak English. If you're English, if your book's in English, you're going to go from 2 billion to 6 billion.
Well,
you're going to have writers.
Talk to that kid, Glendon.
You're going to have writers because this has actually happened before. When Pulp Fiction came out, those writers were some of the highest paid people in the world. This book for 5 cents. There was all kinds of things. It's really interesting if you read up on it. So we're going to have that where you're going to have somebody who's going to write a book. They're going to have it on their blog. They're going to have an app and you're going to be able to pay them, buy the book, and it's going to go all over the world. And they're going to sell this book to 1 billion people.
Yep.
Can you imagine selling the book to 1 billion people for $2.99?
Oh, I can imagine it.
That's 10 billion.
Yes, totally.
That's 10. And I mean,
Glendon, I want to say something. I told you you're a visionary. Everybody has their deal. Like in a company, I'm not the manager type. I'm not even the CEO type, and I've learned that. I am the visionary. I am the guy that thinks. And that's why I don't go to like meetups and thinking places, because I think what you have there are people who are not thinkers. They're your managers. They're the people that got to have things perfect and proofread it like 1,000 times, and they're looking for things. And a guy like you that has ideas flowing like raindrops, like I said earlier, you're like the guy. And they may go against you at the beginning, and I've experienced everything you're going through. And they'll say, not a good idea, and then it starts working. That pride is so big, they can't even comprehend it, and they don't even want to give you credit. And that's why I say I would just, if I have to die in my house, I won't go to those places. Because, everybody's not meant to be there. You need to be with more visionaries and scope them out kind of thing.
Well, that's funny you said that because I got 2 meetup groups and I'm changing it up because I would go there and I would get drained because I was the teapot and I was pouring in everyone's cup, but no one was pouring in my cup. And that became very, very draining. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, this isn't working. I don't need to do this anymore. So what I do now is like, I changed my Facebook stuff. I changed how I do Twitter. I changed how I respond to YouTube. What I've learned is I need highly engaged people. I don't need 1 million people. I don't need, it'd be nice, but I don't need that. Mm-hmm. If I could get 2,000 highly engaged people in my platform, that, is 7 figures. If I can get 10, that's 8 figures. And I just looked at that and that's okay. So what you need to do is work on getting engaged people and not worry about the numbers. Because at one point when I was just pumping out the content, putting all this stuff up on YouTube, I was getting the numbers and, people were coming to watch, but I was getting people who were 10% interested. I was getting people 20% interested, 30%. Some people are 100%. And I there was a guy who was talking about it. He made $10,000 with a 200-person email list.
What?
And he said he had a 90% open rate and a 75% conversion rate.
That is a highly target. Wow, that's good.
That's very, yeah. And I listened to him, and it goes back to how I started online. I cannot find this blog, but this guy gave me some of the best advice I've ever received online.
Wow.
He said, and it was talking about numbers. He said, instead of trying to get all these crazy numbers, what you do is come up with a $25 product and sell it to 2,000 people over a year.
Brilliant.
And I was just like, because, you know, I was blogging. I had 3 blogs. I had Urban Pack Rat, Passionate Friday, Business Credit Mentor. And I was like pumping out content, writing all this stuff, go to the blog. Oh, 2 people came to your blog today. And I done worked 8 hours on all this stuff. I was like, okay, this isn't working.
Yeah.
So I came across that. And my first book was supposed to be a relationship book. I interviewed 200 women. And then one day I saw a guy who had wrote a relationship book on television. And I was just like, I don't want to be that dude. I don't want to be that dude. It was just like, ooh, because to be the relationship book guy, your audience is 90% women.
Yeah.
And you cannot say, well, the reason you don't have a man is because you're fat. No, you can't say that.
No, you can't.
You can't say that and they're going to buy your book. It's like, I can go down the street and get insulted. I'm not going to spend money to be insulted. So
that's true.
I dropped that book in the middle and then started on the storage auction book and then started pumping out all kind of content on YouTube. And then I came across his blog post maybe the second week after I made that decision. Mm-hmm. And then October, I made my first sale. Then from October 2009 to maybe August 2010, I made 62 grand.
Wow, that's good. That is good.
And I was making no money from AdSense.
Just by following that formula.
I mean, literally a paragraph of advice changed my life. A paragraph. And then I was just like, dang. And I'm going back to that, you know, because I've kind of calmed down on some stuff because during the Christmas holidays, I did a lot of testing of products. I did a lot of testing of subject lines because your product can be crap, but if the subject line is tight, people will buy. It's amazing. And you can have an awesome product. And if the subject line is wrong, they're just like not interested. So I worked on that.
Your title, you saying?
Yeah, your title.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah, it's amazing because I took a copywriting course and the things they were talking about, some of it was like, I don't really want to do that, but I know it works, right? And I'm just like, okay, so what I'm going to do? And then this is where you have to make decisions about your legacy. So I decided not to do some of the things they were recommending, which work. I'm not going to say they don't work and I'm not going to judge, but what works for me is tribe building. And so the new project, Digital Pimping, I'm building that tribe really differently. Mm-hmm. I've got 3 books written that I haven't even told anybody about. They're already written. They're ready to go.
Yep.
Once I get to the 5th or 6th book, I'll let people know about them because what I've learned is it takes time to build up stuff because right now everyone is doing the internet marketer launch model. Mm-hmm. Put the product out there, blast, get a bunch of sales, rise up in the rankings. Then what I started doing is with people who have these products, 3-4 months later, I go back and look and see if they sell. And a lot of times they're not selling anymore.
It just kind of died down.
Yeah, it just died down, disappeared.
Yeah.
Now, going back to something I said, I don't advertise the storage auction stuff. I don't talk about it, but I have those storage auction videos and people still go to Amazon and buy that book. It is truly passive income. And I want 100 books like that. I don't want to, I may do some launches, but this year is build, because once again, I don't have a car payment. I don't have a lot of bills. Mm-hmm. So I don't have to make a bunch of money. That's how you get wealthy when you're in the position where you do not have to make a bunch of money.
Totally.
You look at people, one of my clients, he moved back home with his parents to start his business. And he told me for 2 years, everyone talked about him. His parents were great folks. He said he tried to, he actually paid rent. He's like, hey, I'm going to pay you $300. I'm going to pay you something. And and he said he had to fight with them to take the money. And he paid because they saw how hard he was working. Mm-hmm. So he moved back into his old room, took over the basement, built his company. And he said for like 2 years, he made no money. He said it was some of the best times he ever had in his life. You know, it's like he was eating dinner with his parents every night because he said, I wasn't dating. I had no money. It was just like, hey. So the business grew. He moved out, got an office and everything. And I think he said it took him 5 years to get to $1 million in sales. But he couldn't have did that if he tried to chase the dream and live the dream at the same time. And you'll see this coming up because I'm probably going to release it Monday. It's another episode of Badass Hustlers, Badass Products by Badass Hustlers. There's this guy in Australia, right? He was 16 when he started this company. He was 14 when he started this company. He's 18 now. He's got huge plans. And I think once again, his parents, they support him fully, but he really puts out a lot of work. And I told him, I was like, when you're 28, you're going to be a millionaire. And he's like, that's the plan to be rich. I said, no, you don't understand. You started this when you're 14. If you stick with it, when you're 28, you'll have 14 years of business experience.
Totally.
I mean, that is I kind of got pissed because I wanted to do something similar when I was a kid and everybody talked me out of it. No, you need to do this. You need to get a trade. And I was like, oh.
Well, it wasn't your time. But look what space you're in now, though.
I look at it as part culture because everyone wants to talk about, say race and class and culture. Class and culture are the biggest influencers of who you will be in your success level, not your color, not your religion, culture. Because I don't know if you've noticed this. You're seeing a bunch of little white kids act extremely ghetto.
Yep.
They're rapping. They're using all this language. And since they appropriated that ghetto culture, they're starting to have the same dynamics in their lives.
Yep.
Single motherhood's going through the roof. 2011, 42% of the kids in this country were born out of wedlock. 42%.
Wow.
And if you know the ratios of this country, 220 million members of the United States of America are white. 44 million are black, and I think like 50 million are Hispanic. So we know who had the most kids out of wedlock by the sheer numbers.
Totally.
And it's going to grow. So when I see that, culture is incredibly important. And I think one of the reasons that I'm able to do what I'm able to do is I grew up in a nerd culture. Nerd culture created this device that we're speaking on, Skype. Nerd culture created YouTube. Nerd culture created Amazon. Nerd culture created Uber.
Hold on. What you mean nerd? So you mean the friends that you hung out with in school, or you mean your mom, or who are you saying? Like, who created that culture in you?
I don't know whoever created that culture, but I grew up in it.
Same here.
Yeah. I naturally gravitated to nerd culture because when I was a kid, there was these two magazines, Popular Mechanics.
Yep.
And what was the other one? Where you would get this magazine every month and there would be things in there for you to do and to make. That was part of my childhood.
Rainbow was my thing. But yeah, I know what you're talking about.
When's the last time you saw a kid fly a kite?
on maybe Xbox.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Yeah.
No, I used to build kites. Every kite season, we'll go out, they would start putting them in the stores. You get these little paper kites for $2-3, or you build one. And the best kite I ever had came from Captain Crunch. If you send in enough box tops, they sent you this huge Captain Crunch. It was like bright orange. And man, that thing got way up there and I lost it. I was like Charlie Brown, the tree. Well, I don't know if the tree ate it. The string broke. I did that in kite season. So part of my upbringing was learning how to solve problems and build stuff. If parents did what was allowed, I would leave the house at 7:30 in the morning and just go wherever the hell I wanted all day and come home at 5 or 6 or sometimes later. That's child abuse today.
Yeah, that is.
That's child abuse today. But that's why I think, people of a certain age group are just more independent and better problem solvers, because I have a friend who owned an engineering firm. He sold it. And he said one of the biggest problems he was having was hiring engineers who could not solve problems. They had high GPAs, but they couldn't solve problems.
Glendon and Einstein was big into this. And I want to ask you, what is your take on the imagination? Because
it's probably one of the most important things that you can have.
Totally. And we had that as kids. When we were making bow and arrows and making things and playing cops and robbers and outside, all we're doing is imagining. But when we become adults, a lot of times they try to pull the plug and say, grow up, get a real job, stop imagining. But Einstein spoke on that many times. Imagination is more important than knowledge. And that's what it is. That's why I think a lot of people, like that culture that you came from and I came from, I think it helped.
Well, going back to Dean Wesley Smith, I want you to think about every science fiction book from the 20s to 30s to 40s to 50s.
Okay.
Everything that was in there that was fantasy and imagination is now reality. Everything.
There is truth to that. Yeah.
All right. Take Star Trek. The tricorder with Mr. Spock, right? Okay. Get your vitals, scan stuff. That's your cell phone.
Yeah.
Your cell phone can get your vitals now. Your cell phone can open and unlock. I mean, probably in 10 years, your cell phone would probably be like a 3D printer. You just order something and it pops out of your phone.
Yeah. Yep.
All that started with imagination. Every last bit of it. And that's why when, my YouTube channel, there was no model for me to follow with the storage auction thing. When I found YouTube and I started researching resellers, I found 38 people that were talking about storage auctions, reselling, and I was like, wait a minute, you gotta be kidding me. It was like 38. That's why I remember the number, because I went over it. I went back 3 times and it's like Dan Dotson, the guy that was on Storage Wars. He actually he still has a YouTube channel, and he was, talking about storage auctions and showing people auction. It was already there, but nobody was watching it. They started watching it after he went on television, and I tried like different things. And what got people to watch my channel was the stories. And some of the people who were broke as hell, who wanted me to go ahead and call them up and school them how to do storage auctions for free, got mad because I would tell stories. They're like, he's a really good storyteller, but he's not putting out any good information. And it was in the book. It was in the book. Mm-hmm. But that's what got me over, telling stories. Like Ride With Me. Yes, I'm with the black guy. That lady was funny as hell. But those were the experiences.
Yeah.
The Indian chick who, now they had a warehouse down maybe 2 miles from me, and they sold Indian rugs. And this was after I had sold the Indian rugs to these other people. And she would come in and flirt outrageously. But the thing is, she was traditional Indian. She lived with both her brothers, and the father was over in India. Mm-hmm. And I have been around the world, and I know how culture works. So if I had start hanging out with her and dating with her, I was going to have to marry her. There's none of this.
Yeah,
hey, yeah.
No dating like that.
No. And her brother, I knew him and we talked. He was crazy. I'm like, no. We already know. And I know one time she came to the warehouse by herself, and the first thing in my mouth was, does your brother know you're here? He's like, no. And I called him. I was like, your sister's here? She is.
I bet
give her the phone. Give her the phone. Give her the phone. And then all of a sudden, all I heard this Indian, this Farsi, and she's like, you're no fun. And she left. She left. And that's part of, I think, traveling is, I think we as Americans, we just take so much for granted. We have so many liberties here, and I hear people like, I'm leaving America. It's horrible. It's like, you really have not seen horror.
Yeah. I agree.
You really, because Turkey still scares me. Turkey scared me when I visited, and and that's a different kind of place. People were talking about when Janet Jackson married this Indian prince, and it's like, see, he's not worried about divorce. It's like, you don't understand. She's in a country with thousands of miles of desert. There will be no divorce. Janet would just come up missing one day.
Yeah.
There's no divorce. There's no. You don't understand how these people operate. Mm-hmm. I can't even remember, but what do they call the religious police? The guys that run around in the black robes, and they're like above everybody. And there was these American girls walking around in shorts, and they got them. They were like with the canes. And
I got you.
then, some of the guys from me, it's like, we need to help them. I said, no, we don't.
Yeah.
They would kill us. Well, I was like, no. We don't have any diplomatic immunity on this.
None. Just like Singapore, if you go over there and you break their laws, like spitting and chewing out gum, you broke their laws.
Yeah. And they didn't really go after him like they would after they wouldn't, but they would. It was just interesting. And then I saw them later. They were in full clothes.
Yeah. Because, a lot of countries are, look, just because the West thinks it's the way it's supposed to be around the world, you can't just go over and just take over different countries and do your way, because a lot of countries say that they're corrupt because of this type of thinking that we have or whatever. So I don't know, but speaking of that, and we're going to have to end. Has to be a part 1, part 2. Man, I love talking to you, Glendon, and we have almost talked 2 hours, but it's good. I want to ask you this last question, my man, because we're going to have you come back because I like your thinking. Like I said, you're a visionary to me, and you don't get that every day. If you could pick a country right now that you probably could reside in, and you may get bored with this country, I get bored too. What country would that be? What country comes to mind?
Well, the future plan. It's funny you asked that question. The future plan is because I thought about it. Mm-hmm. And I'm probably never, ever going to leave the United States permanently. Okay. But I think of setting up, say this is the base, and actually go to Hong Kong, purchase property. So I'm in Hong Kong at a certain part of the year, because if you're in Hong Kong, it's just easier to go to Australia and other places because you're closer. So spend, some time over there, come back here, instead of like moving somewhere, just go there and experience it. Like I said, probably because if you get property, they give you residency, and that gives you residency, you get a passport, which is very, very cool to have. So I think of, being like a dual citizen, like to live here sometimes, live there. Because the thing is, and this is something that I really have to wrap my head around. It doesn't really matter where I'm at. I just got used to being in a certain place, but it doesn't matter. That's why I've started challenging myself. Like when I was in the coffee shop to produce, and then I got a friend that went on a 6-week excursion over Europe, and he was just telling me Wi-Fi is not reliable everywhere. So, little considerations like that, because you could plan this trip and get there, and then, hey, the Wi-Fi doesn't work, so you can't work.
I did that in Nicaragua. You're right. It doesn't.
So I have to look at that. But yeah, Hong Kong is looking really attractive to me because Australia is cool. Because if you're in Hong Kong, you can go to Australia, you can go to Japan, you can just do a lot of stuff really quick. And a lot of those countries are not in a state of war. Europe is nice, but the Middle East, it's just a lot of stuff that's going on. Russia's pissed at OPEC for tanking the oil prices. So there's a lot of, it's pretty volatile over there, but there's a guy, I don't know if you heard of him, Phil Nico.
He lives in, African-American guy lives in Russia or Ukraine. He goes back and forth.
Yeah. He is funny as hell.
I like that guy.
He has discovered some things. So he's over there now. And that's why you gotta kind of do your own information. But yeah, Hong Kong, because you've been to Hong Kong, right?
Yeah, that's one of my favorite cities, man.
Yeah, and then there's like a Maserati, Rolls Royce dealership damn near on every corner. So
yeah,
it's a city. Yeah, it's a city. It's nothing to see a Lambo, and the thing is, they pay double because of the tax rate over there. So if you see someone with a Lamborghini and they say the Lamborghini is $250, they pay $500,000 for it, and they may have 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So I look at that, and it's weird because I looked at some places that weren't that expensive, but it can be there's a lot of wealth there. There's a ton of wealth there.
Well, they do business with the world. You don't have to hey, I got a local business. Their business is the world.
Also, after Hong Kong, I think of Vancouver.
Oh, Vancouver, Canada?
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that place.
It's just so. And another thing was maybe, you know, because I keep telling you, like, I could pack up my office in my backpack because, you know, I've worked out this travel plan. Everything that's mission critical has to go in the backpack. Has to go in the backpack.
Okay.
So, and I even went so far to think, like, if I go somewhere for a month, maybe I'll just buy a Mac there and then sell it on Craigslist when I leave because I can expense it. So I've thought of all kinds of ways that I can do this stuff because I can't have mission critical stuff in the check on luggage. Can't. Or if I know I'm going to be somewhere, maybe I'll just ship what I need there, like the lights and stuff like that. Cause, you know, from my eBay days, I could probably ship a lot of stuff for like $50 in one box. Easy.
Well, why not carry it on as a carry-on?
I like to travel light.
Uh-huh.
I like to travel light. All right. And also say if it's something I really need, if it gets lost, then I got to get it anyway. So, yeah, I'm one of the few people who seems to get stuff lost. Some people take 20 trips and never lost luggage ever in life.
You're the guy that always loses it. Okay. I got it.
Yeah. I also, you know, I was always the guy that get pulled over and they like stretch your arms out and they run the wall, take your shoes off. That used to happen to me a lot too. So maybe I'm being over paranoid, but essentially a lot of being able to create is about flow. So
Totally.
trying to stop problems before they happen. And like I said, I don't like to carry a bunch of stuff. So maybe one check-on bag in my backpack and then whatever else I need will be there because this stuff is not that expensive. Like the mic that I'm on now, that was like $149. MacBook, an iMac is like $1,200. So the mic and the lights, we're talking about like $1,500.
Yeah.
That's not a lot for a business. I mean, for someone's like, hey, you know, I just want to get that stuff. That's a lot of money. But if, say I go to Vancouver, say, hey, I'm in Vancouver for a month. I'm going to have some meetings, meetups. I'm going to have some private consulting. I can make $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. So that's not really a huge expense.
No.
In terms of doing that. And also for like creating stuff. I find the iMac to be better for a lot of stuff. Like when you're doing tutorials, the iMac's better than the laptop. You can do it on the laptop.
Yeah.
But when you have more real estate, it's just easier to do stuff when you got screens. Cause like right now, I got a book that I'm working on that's open. The Skype when I'm with you is open. 2 websites. I got a lot of stuff that's going on. Whereas it kind of gets, the smaller the screen is, the more crowded it becomes. Also, the MacBooks, we got a lot of stuff going on. That fan pops up. So you can't have the fan coming on when you're doing like an interview or something.
That's true.
So, you know, just some stuff. But yeah,
But
Hong Kong, Vancouver.
I have a mixer when it comes to that. I did the podcast Answer Man class. And so I don't have to go through that. I have a digital recorder and I have a mixer.
Okay.
So I can kind of bypass that sound. I'm sorry, what you were saying something else about Hong Kong?
Yeah, Hong Kong and Vancouver. I'm probably going to visit Vancouver in August.
Have you been to Montreal?
No, I haven't.
You would like that. Check it out.
So, you know, but yeah, I mean, that's one of the flexibilities. And that's why I'm trying to train myself to do this stuff, changing my hours, because when you look at what people are doing, you know, you got people who are making 6-figure, 7-figure incomes just from podcasting. That's real.
That's true.
You have people who, I don't know how I feel about the outsourcing of all the Kindle book stuff because, and I mean, if it works, it makes you money. That's cool. But what's happening is they're hammering the same categories over and over again. So market dynamics are going to dictate that's just going to get, you'll make money. There's always going to be someone that's going to make money in those categories. It's just, you're going to get into the commodity. You're going to become a commodity.
Yeah.
And when you become a commodity, your income goes down. So that's one of the things with that. And also Amazon is going to change stuff again. So that process that you use now that made you 200,000 next year is probably not going to work because whenever, and this is something I've seen them do, whenever someone's figuring out their system, they change it. As soon as enough people figure it out, they change it. They always change it. Whereas if you go ahead and build an organic tribe and you really talk to people and bring people into your environment that really care about what you're doing, that stuff doesn't matter.
That's true.
It doesn't matter. And that's one of the reasons, like, I can now go back to Amazon is because I know how to make money with ebooks and audiobooks off Amazon, and also with some of these other platforms. Like Udemy is a great platform.
Yep.
What they're doing is awesome. What I don't like about them is they don't like the way that I teach. And when I say the way they're set up, they're not set up for long videos, 2 to 10 minutes roll. And like I said, it's an awesome platform, but it doesn't work well with how I like to teach, which means I need to have my own thing. And also, I like getting the email addresses, and I like, talking to people, because I've got some folks who've been with me for 5 years now. And, it's pretty interesting because the storage auction business, the Saturday stuff brought, repeat customers. But a lot of really great stuff on eBay, you're selling this gun and you're like, dang, how can I get 10 more of those? Whereas if you create a really good product and you're the factory and use the internet as a distribution channel, if you create a home run, you don't have to worry about inventory issues.
That's true. That's
why I am doubling down on this, because, I've got an experiment that I'm working on, and we're going to see how it rolls. It's probably like a 90-day window. But if it does half as good as I hope, it's going to be pretty awesome.
And Glenn, I just want to say, and we're going to have to let you go. I tell the subscribers, we're going to have a part 1 and part 2. Like I said, you had a lot of good information you shared. When I look at passive income, Glendon, a lot of people like to go for real estate and things like that. And, when my wife and I travel, we have the little Chihuahua and stuff, whatever.
Okay.
So we send the Chihuahua to the mom's house and stuff. But I don't like that whole thing of going somewhere and then, like, I wonder how that house is doing back there, my rental or that thing or whatever. So I've been a renter. What is your take on, like, having these real estate things or whatever when you travel? Do you want to just use passive income as books and products and things like that?
I got like 3 parts to that, 3 answers to that question. I think real estate is awesome if you turn it into a true business. If you go out and buy 1 to 4 houses, maybe 5, and you handle everything, you've created yourself a job. Like what you said, when you go out the country, you still got to worry about that.
Yep.
Now, if you go out and you get, say, 30 houses and hire a management company and you never have to deal with that stuff, at that point, you have a business. So if you're like in Africa, looking at the lions running around the Serengeti, you're not worried because you've got someone, that's their job to handle that. I thought about that. I used to be in the real estate. Real estate is awesome. Mm-hmm. But what you talk about, you've got that, you got taxes, you have evictions. So just like there's a lot of good, there's also some bad. Mm-hmm. I am really more on creating the books and using that as passive income, because I gave a company to my daughter.
Okay.
And part of this is, when I pass on, like the corporation, that's hers. Mm-hmm. I'm still running stuff and everything. And we talk about it, just like when I get later on in life, I want I want her to be able to have something that, this just goes on and on and on. Cause I've dated 5 trust fund babies.
Okay.
And one of them, her dad, he got like $7 million from this Mexican oil company years ago and put it in a trust for her. Mm-hmm. And she's not what, when you say trust fund, you see this vision of partying and just being all crap. She's nothing like that. Wow. She's real. That's all right. Well, no, because the thing is, because I've dated 5 and one was kind of sort of like that, but the other, they were pretty cool. And they were all very, very grateful that someone had looked out for them on that level. Wow. And I want to do that because what it does is it sets up a legacy moment. Totally. Because you do that and then they do that for their kid and their kid does that for their kid. So what you're doing is you're building people who don't have to operate in the regular system.
That's true.
So by giving her the company and, like I said, I did an LLC for the Hustler Mindset Project last August. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the stuff I'm doing, that company's just not going to make any money. And I'm not like really worried about that right now because it's about building and going to what you said about passive income. Going back to my first book. I don't care if that book makes 10, 20 bucks a month for the next 20 years. That's money that I get for something I did in 2010.
That's true. Yep.
And in my books, I put down there, I've got one book that makes me like 50 bucks a month that I wrote 4 years ago. And that is a better return than, say, go check your 401k statement. And I guarantee I have a feeling that's going to be a better return than you're getting. And you're investing way more money.
And time.
And time. So, my whole thing is, like I said, I told you earlier, if I can get to 100 books in, say, the next 5 years, and if those books each make 10 bucks a month, I'm happy.
Yeah.
I'm thrilled.
Totally.
Because that's work once, get paid forever. That's why I like this. I'm not looking at the eye-popping numbers of, 6 figures and 90. No, I don't care about that. That's nice if you can get it, but I'm looking at if I create something this year that I get paid for the next 5 years.
Awesome.
That's what I'm looking at. So yeah, I'm with you on the income. I probably would buy in a foreign country because I would go ahead and set it up where there's a team in place to help manage it. Because one of the things I've learned when I built the first business, and one of the reasons I got in trouble with the contract office furniture business, was I did everything myself. And the most successful business, the business started being successful is when I had a partner. Like, a lot of people talk about store charge, but I had a partner from day one. I never was in that by myself. It makes a huge difference. So from that experience, I learned you need to have teams and you need to have people in place because, you hear people all the time. I don't want to hire any employees. One of the first signals that your company is going to be successful is how early you do hire employees.
That's true.
So
you can't do it by yourself.
No.
You can't.
And yeah, I will definitely put together teams, which means you kind of have to think larger than just what you can manage. Because I got a friend right now, she owns like 5 houses and it's been like a nightmare. I mean, it's really been a nightmare the last few years because people will rent, be good for 3 or 4 months, 6 months, 7 months. They have to put them out, go in, paint, do all this other stuff. And, she's got this car and it's sounding kind of ratty, which I'm like, hey, that money's not coming in.
Yeah.
But fortunately, the houses are paid off. So that's very helpful, but you still have carrying costs. I really I call my thing the George Lucas model.
George Lucas
created Star Wars in 1977.
Yep.
He's still getting paid 3 decades later.
Totally.
That's what I'm looking at. And that's one of the things about these courses and these books, because I think these are just really great times to be a creator.
It is. And I want to just leave you one thing with that house. So I went to Nicaragua with my wife and I stayed there for about 4 months, I take it. And I remember we stayed at a guy's house on the beach, nice, 70-year-old dude from Philadelphia. And I remember his wife came down to visit and I remember something she said. She said, I hate this house. So why you hate the house? It's on the beach, prime real estate here in Nicaragua. She said, because this is every year our vacation. We have to come here and worry about this damn house. And I thought about it. I was like, that is true. Maybe you want to go to Peru one year, but you got to worry about this damn house that's in Nicaragua. So I was like, man, that kind of takes the fun out of vacation. Like every year, where you going? Nicaragua. Oh, where you going? Nicaragua. So I don't know. I just want to share that because I thought about that. I was like, that totally took my mind off of buying a house in another country.
One thing you can do, and you can thank Airbnb for this, because I got a friend right now who has a house in Hawaii.
Okay.
Since he started renting it out on Airbnb, that whole Airbnb, when he got laid off, his income went up because of that house. Because he would, like you said, he would go when he could. And he had and was renting out through an agency, but Airbnb is just much better. He had to hire a local guy to let people in, but he does about 10 G's a month from that house now.
Wow. Now that's smart.
Yeah. So that's something else you put. And this is what I'm talking about being an internet dude. I have a friend recently. I told people about Airbnb 3 years ago, and she just put someone in one of her houses. She said, "Oh my God, I wish I did this earlier." Mm-hmm. She's like, "I made $800 this month."
Yeah.
Yeah. If you got a really nice house in a good, in a nice part of the country or close, you have a moneymaker. I mean, I even thought about getting a house for Airbnb. I know someone here. I know of her. She's got 3 penthouses. She rents them out on Airbnb. $500 a night.
Wow. What place is she at? Where's she at?
Yeah, in Atlanta. Oh, she lives in none of them. She lives in none of them. She rents them out on Airbnb.
You know what?
They're furnished and everything.
There's a guy in my mastermind group. He was saying something. That's probably what he was talking about. Wow, that's amazing.
Well, I mean, see, this is about being plugged into the internet. Airbnb didn't exist 4 years ago.
Okay.
This company didn't exist 4 years ago. Now has created a bridge between people who have something to rent and people who want something to rent. That I know of people making $800 to $10,000 a month from this platform.
Wow.
For something they already had.
They just put it on that site and made it available.
Well, yeah, the better things typically, because like the one with the penthouse, like I said, I don't know her. I know of her, but all her stuff is tricked out. I mean, you would pay, I think it's $250 a night. Yeah, it's $250 a night. So here in Atlanta, that's Ritz-Carlton, the Four Seasons, really nice hotels. You can get not just a room, but you can get a whole, because she rents out the whole place. It's not just a room. You get the whole floor. You get the whole unit for $250 a night. Because you ever go to a hotel and wish that you could just go to the store and get some food and cook? You don't really want to go anywhere. You just kind of want to chill. Because and you can do that with Airbnb.
I've never even heard. I've heard of Airbnb, but I've never looked at the site and saw.
Oh, check it out. Check it out when you get off. I mean, they're international. Next trip you and your wife take, you can go to Airbnb and see who has something for rent where you are. You go and I guarantee you there's going to be somebody.
Okay. Wow. So that's a nice little passive income right there.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I divested myself of a lot of stuff when I decided to become a writer. Because, I followed it's like, well, writers don't make a lot of money. And I said, okay, that's cool with me. If I can do this and I can make a living, I'll take what comes with it. And whoa, did I know that I was so wrong, because you can make it goes back to what you were talking about, imagination. And this is one of the things. When I go to my writing group and I stop communicating because there's like, well, you read all these nonfiction books, it's different. We write fiction. And I want to say, Spider-Man's fiction. There's merchandise for Spider-Man. Iron Man's fiction. 50 Shades of Grey was fiction. They came out with a lot of merch.
Yeah.
A lot of writers are so singly focused on writing that they leave money on the table.
Totally.
Because if you come out with a series that's really hot and you go out and find the designer to create a hot T-shirt, and give the T-shirt away on your site, and there's like anyone else that wants one, you can order one for $15.99 free ship. That's another source of income off that book. A lot of writers don't do it. They just don't do it because I've been around literature for so long, I understand why they do it, but the future is going to demand that you do some of those things differently. If you want to make more money. I mean, seriously, because I'm telling you, Amazon is going to crank down income again.
Probably so. You're definitely probably right.
Oh, they're going to crank it down again because Amazon, and they're brilliant. I love the company. They're brilliant. All of these writers are used to create bait to keep people on the site. Oh, I get my ebooks here. Oh, here's some vitamins. Mm-hmm. It's just bait to keep people on the site.
That's true.
I mean, last time you went to Amazon, how long were you on the site? At least 3 to 4 minutes. At least.
Oh, God, yeah.
You're just bait. You're just another thing to keep people coming here.
Wow. Hey, you know what, Glendon? I'm going to talk to you after, but thank you, podcast listeners. we just received a lot of great information, and Glendon definitely is a visionary. I wish him luck in the future, and we're going to try to have him on here again. So thanks again, Glendon, out there in are you in the country area now, or are you in GA?
Yeah, I'm out in the country. I'm in the woods.
Okay, you're in the country. Okay. Well, like I said, thanks again, and we'll see you next time, Glendon.
All right, man.
Okay.
You see my new intro. I rented a room in a high rise because I wanted to get some video footage for intros because, man, people are getting crazy with this copyright infringement if you use this picture, that picture. So I'm just like, hey, I'll just do my own stuff.
Okay.
And I got a lot done because I just put the camera against the window and, let it go for an hour and two, then time lapse it as the intro. And it was different. It was very different. But you were saying, what else is going on with her schedule?
No, but what she does is, so she did this every day. This wasn't like a once in a while thing. And, after she would do it, her schedule was, she'll come back home and eat, and she'll read over what she's written. And usually if the husband wasn't too tired, she'll read it to him. But then, she'll just write stuff and just immediately just send it to the editor. But what they were doing was, and the same thing with Beethoven, he got up at the same time and they set certain hours in the day to create, because they knew that between this hour and this hour, I'm at my peak and I could just flow with energy and my passion or whatever, and I could do my best work in this time. So they knew those hours and they just created during that time. Now, do you follow that pattern, or well, you know what? No, let's not go, because what I'm doing right now, and I just started it like a minute ago. I always feel sometimes the best interviews are when I don't have the recorder on. So I just recorded about a minute and 33 seconds. And I started it right at the point where we were talking about, Maya Angelou. Because, we're just talking off record and you yourself. But while we're doing this, when you went there, like, did you create multiple videos? Like, how many videos did you create? Or did you write?
I wrote, and that's what started it again. I had a personal situation that kind of took my mojo apart because, like, let's take yesterday. I got up because, I'm developing a ritual because it has to be a little different now because I got this new thing I'm doing, badass products by badass hustlers. And the two people, and there's actually one I'm going to do an interview tonight. Nobody's a morning person and no one can do it in the morning. And I was getting up at like 5 o'clock in the morning. Then after working all day, then having this interview, like the next one that's coming up is with this guy, Dominic. He makes knives and he's in Australia. So we did our interview like 11:30 at night and it went off until like 12, almost 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So I had to adjust my schedule where I'm getting up at 8 or some days 9 because for me to communicate with folks, I have to be available for when they're ready because, oddly enough, a lot of people are just not morning people. It's weird. So the new schedule is, and this is what I did when I wrote like 5 books in a month. I would get up. First thing I would do, and this is something I did yesterday, is I try to get my first 1,000 words done first before anything. Don't look at email. Just first 1,000 words, then I'll go into the morning ritual of drinking some hot water. Then I'm trying to incorporate something new, which you'll probably understand. I'm going to try to start working out 3 times a day because the last few weeks I've been writing my ass off and my ass is starting to spread because I'm sitting all day.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, we got to change that up. So this morning I got one workout in. When we are finished, I'm going to do another workout. Then I'm going to do some more work. And then I'm going to the gym later on this evening. Because if you are just sitting all the time, you're just taking years off your life. Because what's the natural law of the universe? Atrophy. It just falls apart. So my ritual's getting to be kind of weird because
no such thing.
I'm learning how to make myself be productive at any time because like what you said about Maya Angelou and Beethoven, I have pushed myself to be productive whenever. If that makes any sense, because I keep a schedule. Like when I start writing, I write down the time. Like yesterday, I got my first 1,009 words done in AM. Then there was 3 p.m. slots, 26:45. And then this one happened like 9 o'clock at night, 3,075 words. Mm-hmm. And then after that, it was 511. So it's a process. I'm still working on it because if you're going to make money online, you've got to have either one killer product or a bunch of good products.
Yep.
And I'm going for the bunch of good products because if one killer product comes out of that, awesome. But I'm not going to hang my hat on it or my expectations because I see what's happening with Amazon. And it's to the point where people are not even reading free books. So just because it's free, that's not good enough. You have to have a good book, a good cover, great content, and a good price point. And that's just the floor now. That's just the floor. That's just the ticket to get in. But you got to have something else that's going to have people go look for your books. And that's where, the digital pimping thing comes in because, I use the YouTube channel to effectively create a serious lead generation device where, I can really depend on that. And then another project I did last year, I created another channel. I got it up to 100,000 views, made close to $2,700 in 90 days off that channel. Mm-hmm. So I went from nothing, scratch, to 100,000 views. And more importantly, and it was only like 2,000 subscribers, but many people will disagree with me. This subscribers are great. It depends upon your content because when I look at my views, I know that half my subscriber base is storage auction people. So they're not really interested in the new content.
Yeah.
So when I get a video, because I had one that surprised me and it went to 10,000 views, and I knew that was, maybe it was because I was on my Craigslist, maybe it was some of the subscriber base, but when I get a video that jumps up to 10, 20, 50,000 views in like 6 months, those aren't subscribers.
Those are new people that found you.
Yeah, those new people.
Yeah.
And whenever I get a bunch of new people, I get a bunch of sales. And that's why that's what I'm really pushing. So the new channel, that's why I'm not really saying, hey, I got this new channel, come over. No, you're here on, the Hustler Mindset channel. You're here for business stuff and occasionally me losing my mind and going off on a rant. That's why you're here. I expect the Digital Pimping channel to be smaller, but I will make more money because it's extremely focused. The people that are coming over there are looking for, hey, how do I make money as a digital pimp? How do I make money with ebooks? How do I make money with video? How do I make money with courses? Now, I haven't done the podcasting thing seriously. So once I do it and make money, then I'll do a course. I'm not going to do a course before I actually do the podcast. So I have to get set up with iTunes and there's Stitcher. There's so, and the thing is, there's so many new things that come out because the last time I did podcasting and I did have something that was, the Urban Pack Rat. Some of the things that are really hot and make podcasting easier did not exist.
Yes, I agree.
It didn't exist. So,
I agree.
I've got enough on my plate right now, but probably later in the year, or perhaps next year, I'll jump into podcasting, teaching. I'm going to set up a podcast. I'm going to get one, but into the teaching and building, I'm not even going to touch that until I get my podcast out there and start making money with it. Okay. But I do know how to make money with video. I do know how to make money with ebooks and audiobooks. And I know how to create lead generation. And I know how to, that test of building a channel really fast, because I go over YouTube. I do channel evaluations all the time. And I'm just like, okay, your start date was 2008. Wow. You only have 30,000 views. Okay. How many videos you have? Oh, you got 2 videos and you stopped making videos. Okay. That's what happened. But it's amazing how someone can start a channel now and leapfrog over established YouTubers.
Yeah.
That's very, very possible because many of these people have figured out it's not the video, it's the network.
Yep.
And once you figure, and that's another reason that my main channel is like all over the place, because there's really no network to get into it because I'm no longer a reseller. I don't do Amazon. I don't sell on eBay.
That's true. And
I haven't since 2009. I don't want to be like the Al Bundy thing. Like, yeah, back in 2009, man. Yeah, I was selling, I had that $30,000 month.
Yeah.
No, I mean, and that's one of my principles. I don't want the most exciting thing that ever happened to me to be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago. I don't want, no.
I agree.
No.